Hey, jerks, we got a live one for you today. Wow. Wow. Let's just bring him up. Attorney Mark Bederow. We just talking in the green room. Well, he's got a lot to say. He's been tweeting today about the trial today, the testimony for Michael Proctor and the other two police officers too. There's a lot to talk about. Let's bring him up right now. Attorney Mark Bederow, welcome back.
Hey, how are you?
Great. Where do you want to go on this? I just want to get right into it because it was just so shocking today.
Do you begin with what happened today and how bad it was, or what should happen next? I don't know whether you look forward or you look back first, but let me look forward.
You want to look forward? Okay, we'll look forward first, and we'll look back.
They should dismiss this case tomorrow if they had any sense of right and wrong and morality and legal ethics and integrity. They would, Morrissey himself would come in or send somebody, whether it's Lally or anyone else, and move to dismiss. And they don't have to apologize in the sense of saying that we think she's not guilty, but they need to recognize that there is so much misconduct, so much inappropriate conduct. There is a burden of proof that they certainly could never meet. They never were going to meet it, but certainly after today, they never would. And what that woman had to go through today to be humiliated and shamed by this scumbag and his other scumbag buddies in the state police, which ought to be its own scandal, by the way. I mean, the Massachusetts State Police and his supervisors were aware of this and let this go on. But it's not just that Proctor is a scumbag and corrupt. He is, okay? And, you know, the first question you should ask yourself is, after you saw today, do you think a jury is more inclined or less inclined to think that he's capable of playing with the taillight and planting evidence? And I mean, the answer, unless you live in a yellow cottage somewhere, is pretty obvious, I would suggest. The answer is obviously more inclined. All right. And it's not just because he said terrible things about what he thought of Karen Reed's mental capacity, what he said about her private physical health, what he said about her physical appearance as a woman, what he said about everything else. I mean, that's disgusting and bad enough. But look at the stuff that he said to the medical examiner, for example. All right. They have thoroughly kneecapped the credibility of the medical examiner and now put it in perfect context as to why we've discussed in the past. Why would she come up with this crazy statement that, well, it wasn't from a fight? And it sounds like the answer is because she got harassed repeatedly by Proctor, Yuri, and these other dirtbags in the state police who pressured her and bullied her, and she finally did that. But so her testimony, in some sense, is going to be compromised. You had, Proctor demonstrating actual bias against Karen Reed, illogical bias. He thinks she's a whack job. I hate her. I this, I that. So it's very rare that you have a case where a police officer has there's evidence of a police officer that has specific bias against a defendant, as opposed to a general bias that I arrest perps who are guilty and they're all guilty. So no, he has personal animus towards her. And it was demonstrated to go on, not just when he arrested her, it went on and on and on for months and months. So that also works against him. All of these messages work against him. And that's just part of it. You had another witness who came in today, a police officer, who basically had no skin in the game, clearly is an unbiased witness, who says that there was a dent crack type thing in the car, which is consistent, I think, with a polycarbonate car hitting another car, perhaps at the right angle. So that totally contradicts Proctor's story of the 45 pieces of glass. And then you had the video evidence today, which you learned that Yuri was a disaster on that, in terms of he wouldn't give up what he should have given up, saying, I disagree with you that it wasn't inaccurate just because it was a mirror image, conveniently leaving out the fact that by flipping the image, you take out Proctor and you take out the taillight. then you add in the fact that there was another video, which has what, 42 minutes of disappearing video. And when the video magically comes on, look who's standing right next to the taillight doing God knows what. There's Proctor again. So if you think for a second that any juror is going to take a word of what Michael Proctor says, whether after what happened today, they're human beings. All right. So putting aside the legal stuff, they're going to look at him and say, he's a piece of garbage. He is a state police officer. He's disgusting. I don't believe a word of what he said. I'm also told there's 10 women on the jury, which is just an unmitigated disaster. So they ought to tomorrow dismiss the case because it's the right thing to do. It never should have been brought. There's just problem after problem. And the last opening thought that I want to add is this. The DA's role in this is almost as bad as Proctor's. I'm talking about what happened today. And Adam Lally, honestly, should be ashamed of himself at the way he handled this today. It's one thing as a prosecutor to try to pop the balloon, so to speak, if you're going to go forward. So you want to get out the bad stuff. I get it. Rather than him getting learning on cross-examination about all these terrible things that Proctor did. But if you're going to do it, you have to be credible as a prosecutor. So you need to show compassion. You need to show that you recognize that your witness, even though he's your witness, is a scumbag and that you think it's wrong and that you can relate to the jury and kind of share a moment with everyone in the courtroom who's not a scumbag, that whatever you think of the case, we all recognize that Michael Proctor is a scumbag and he's corrupt. That's obvious. Okay. But what Lally does is he sticks to the drone, dial tone, monotone, and does it in this clumsy manner where he's asking. It's no different than when he's asking about, apron, the snow on the apron, or all the other stuff. It's very just nonchalant, doesn't have a care in the world about it. But that's not even the worst of it. The worst of it is after he clumsily gets some of this evidence out, he then wants Proctor to explain what he's thinking and explain. And rather than just saying, listen, do you recognize, what I would have done as a prosecutor said, do you recognize this is wrong? And kind of be a human being. All right. But he doesn't do that. He just asks Proctor to explain how it's happening. And the best that Proctor can do is offer these canned, it was wrong, it was inappropriate, while he's looking at the jury and looking at the floor. He had no sincerity. He should have looked at Karen Reed and he should have been asked by Lally, is there something you want to say to Miss Reed? And he should have said, that was inappropriate. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry for what I said. It's wrong. He didn't have the balls to look at her or anything. And he gave this canned speech of, it was wrong. It was inappropriate. And even after that, Lally then still wants him to explain why he did it, seeking to elicit testimony from Proctor where he summarizes what he believes is her guilt as some kind of justification for it.
Unbelievable.
Lally,
it's like, what? It's like, tell me, was the lady wearing a short skirt? Is that why you went after her? It's just like justifying it.
This prosecutor's office is so dense, so incompetent, so unprofessional, and just their behavior is beyond belief. And if you were going to bring this out on direct, you needed to be compassionate. You needed to be sincere, both as the DA and have the witness fall on the sword and eat it. And by eat it, I mean, go ahead and cry, look at her, apologize, tell us how you've ruined your life and you shamed her for no reason and all of that. But no, what he does is he makes it clear he's sorry he got caught. And Lally is sorry that this happened because it's going to screw up his case now. So tell me again why she's guilty. And then, as the prosecutor, when it comes time for cross-examination, he should have prepped the witness to say, hey, buddy, you're on your own, okay? You're going to have to eat this. I'm going to sit down. They're going to come after you, and you're going to have to take your medicine like a man, okay? And what does Lally do? Objection. Why? Because he's making more ouch objections, and he opens the door to all of this evidence, and now he's trying to keep out the fact that it hurt. Okay, so if these people had a shred of dignity, which they clearly have none, they would walk in tomorrow and say, we're dismissing this case and this would be over. They're not going to do it. Okay. You know, they're not going to do it. I know they're not going to do it. The judge knows they're not going to do it. So this game is going to continue on and on. Proctor, as I told you weeks ago, he's toast. I think it's pretty clear. We can all understand his career is over. Okay. It's just a matter of time. Now it's all on the record. He is completely finished. But right now, the fact that he's getting paid, he's actively working cases, this even goes beyond Karen Reed. And I don't mean to dismiss what's happening to her, because what happened to her today was just awful as a human being to watch and have to experience that on TV, and everyone, be given a spotlight into your private life that this jerk has no right to know about. But putting her to the side for a minute, anybody comfortable with the behavior of the Massachusetts State Police, generally speaking?
No.
I mean, this guy's laughing it up with his
Yeah.
colleagues and supervisors who do nothing. So this is
Shocking.
I'm just almost speechless, because is there
It's
a
even
serious,
worse than we all thought it was going to be.
it's 1,000 times worse, but it
Yeah.
also shows you the discipline of these lawyers, how good they were, because what they do, unlike Lally, is, you don't overpromise and underdeliver. Okay. You underpromise and overdeliver, and they handle this beautifully. They gave you a tease in the opening statement as to what the messages would contain. And they gave you enough of a tease to be appalled and shocked and say, my God, this guy Proctor is awful. But they held back a lot of it. Okay. And they could have used it with Yuri. They didn't. They could have used it with McCabe. That stuff about McCabe and you're friends with McCabe and Julie Albert. They could have used it with her. They held it back. They could have used it with any number of people, even still, but they waited for Proctor. I guess why he testified is another part of this conversation I'll never understand, but he did, and they held it for him and they unloaded it. They're not even done, but they over delivered, such the point that although you were already expecting him to be a disaster and get destroyed, you can't help but be left with, after he left the stand today, thinking it's 1,000 times worse. Okay. And there's actual evidence of his corruption. Okay. About the gifts. I mean, that is by definition corruption, talking about getting gifts, his vulgar language, his attempting to improperly influence the medical examiner, talking about her personal health history. The list could go on and on. And I have to tell you, one of the things that jumped out, and then I'm done because I need to breathe and take a drink. But 10 minutes after Michael Proctor was talking about leaking specific case information to his buddies, okay, he said, under oath to Lally, I would never tell anyone specific case information, whether they be family or friends. This is literally 10 minutes after he was telling his buddies all kinds of stuff about Karen Reed. This is so bad. And we always joke about how many bad days they have, and each day is worse than the last. This has got to be what is rock bottom for them. And again, if there is any adult in the Norfolk County DA's office, if there's just one, somebody should have the courage to step up and say, we need to dismiss this case. This needs to end. And whatever's going to happen with all the dirty witnesses or dirty cops or anything, they can deal with. And finally, other than some people, who we don't need to mention by name, who are just all kinds of crazy and they go off the deep end, any sane person right now, whether they want to call you a tinfoil hat, a conspiracy theorist, whatever it is, if you can't credibly, plausible, you don't have to believe it, that it's plausible that Proctor could have planted evidence with the knowledge of Yuri and all of these other people, based on what you've seen, based upon the credible testimony of the Dighton cop, based upon the text messages, the butt dials, and everything else you've seen, if you can't think it's at least plausible that these guys framed her, you need your head examined. This
Totally.
case never should have been brought. as soon as the DA learned about what the feds had, even if they were going to bring it, they should have dropped it then. And they deserve everything they're going to get when this case is over, when she gets acquitted, or whether finally they step up and dismiss it. And if they don't want to hear it from people like us, then they should listen to the judge, who will go out of her way 98% of the time to help him, including in the morning today. But let me tell you something. She had no love for the Proctor stuff today and wanted him to say it, and say it loud, not turning off the air conditioner today. We're not spelling out the dirty words. You're going to say it. I want to hear it, because the jury can't hear you. And this is just so awful. But you know what? Lally's going to, on Wednesday, it's going to be time to make the donuts, and he'll be there bright and ready to make the donuts. And that's just shameful for his office and the state police and everyone else who's touched this just complete dog shit type of case.
It's unbelievable that you would have so much hate for someone that you're investigating, and their attorney. He threw it at Yannetti too. Like I don't have hate in my life like that. I This guy has hate against him. Like, you can feel the hate. Like, talking
He
about
is,
physical conditions. Like,
he's probably a sociopath. I mean, he
yeah,
doesn't appear to have any genuine remorse for what he's done wrong, and has no problem just shaming and humiliating people. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but he appears to have almost like sociopathic tendencies. There isn't any way a single juror or anyone else watching this fairly believes for a second that he has any sincere regret about what he did, as opposed to realizing the gig is up and I got caught. Okay. Because he never apologized to Karen Reed. He never looked at her. He rolled his eyes. He looked down. He did the McCabe school of jury looking, where, tried to do that. But even when he was talking to Lally, he tried to justify it, to say, oh, well, I have good evidence and that has nothing to do with anything else that I did. And then he even got defiant about it. I had a warrant. I could look at that phone. I did nothing wrong. I don't care that I did this. I shouldn't have done it. It was improper. And then he says, and I still don't like Yannetti. And while that may be like, a sick burn to the towels and those types of people who think that's funny, if you're a juror, can you imagine how that looks like?
no. It
Talk
shows you
about,
his immaturity. It shows
yeah,
you the fact that how stupid this guy is too. Like,
and
if you
his,
hate somebody like this, you shouldn't say that. You should
yeah,
say, and you should try to find a way to let it go. Like, why do I hate this guy? Like, what's in it in me? Like, he should just be someone he's going against in court. It's
he has
ridiculous.
no sincerity in anything that he said. He has no genuine remorse. He got caught, but yet Lally decided, what I'm going to do is ask you these questions, and then what I want you to do is attempt to tell me in conclusory terms that it was okay because, you have compelling evidence against her, which was improper testimony in any event. But putting that aside, he just he just doesn't care, other than the fact that he got caught. And he has no conscience, as somebody just noted in a comment. You can tell he's just standing around like, I'll read it. I've got this. He thought it, for whatever reason, him and his lawyer thought the best thing for him to do was to testify about this stuff. Okay. He almost certainly perjured himself, at least by my count, on 6 separate statements today, just related to the taillight, probably. Even, and the Dighton cop is one of the witnesses who would testify in that type of case. But they just don't care. I mean, that's the sick part of it. They think this is fine. They said what they said, and they're just all going to show up for work on Wednesday like, what's for breakfast?
Yeah, right. You brought up the Dighton police officer. We have a comment on that came in. He said, "Do you think the officer from Dighton Barrows made a difference today?"
Well, to the extent that there was any difference to be made, because I think the case was already over, frankly. But for those who just can't go that far, I think the Dighton officer made a devastating witness that favored the defense. I mean, he was a classic exculpatory witness. Now, why a prosecutor, and again, you just look at this guy and shake your head, thought that the best way to do this would be to call, by all accounts, anyone who's going to perceive a witness as a good witness. Okay. He is an honest cop. He's not part of this Canton cult, this just incestuous group of who, whatever they are, including the police officers who were involved in God knows what, as just an honest cop who responded and saw something. Okay. And what he said he saw was a crack, a dent-like crack in a taillight, which again, if you talk to people who understand anything about cars, is what happens to polycarbonate lights. They dent within, they don't shatter. So he described what seemingly would make sense. He has no reason to make that up. And then the DA calls him as a witness after he's just had a video showing Proctor staring at the taillight, which is preceded by 42 minutes of unaccounted for video, which was preceded by a video that was deliberately flipped by the Canton police, who gave it to the state police and Lally, all of whom knew that this would conceal Proctor potentially doing something to the taillight. What are you doing here? Why would you call him? And then after you establish that this guy blows up what Proctor could have testified about, then you call Proctor, who's willing to testify, and says what he says. And this is why I tell you that this is like the worst prosecutor you'll ever see. There's no strategic thought other than his strategic thought that I'm going to pop the balloon by introducing the text messages myself, but then I'm going to take the extra step of making my witness sound even less likable and less credible because he's going to try to justify it in the context of the case.
Yeah, she's guilty. She deserves it.
I honestly, I don't know how this guy shows his face in that courthouse when this case is over ever again.
She deserves it too, is I think something that women relate to. They've heard that before. Like it's called misogyny. Like that's what his defense was. She deserves it. Like,
well, you learned something else today about the text messages that I don't think we knew from the opening, which again, the under promise and over delivery, which isn't even over yet, because this could go on and on and on. You know, I kind of felt like we were going to get a couple of really regrettable text messages shortly after the arrest where he talks about, you know, I wish she would kill herself. We didn't hear that yet. The nudes and that. No, what you got was a pattern of pervasive and systemic misogyny, abuse, bias that went on and on and on for month after month, to friends, okay, to his buddy in Tennessee, to the Canton police officers, to the medical examiner, to the people in the state police, to his wife, to everyone. And I totally retract something I said the last time we talked, was that I got the idea that maybe Proctor was the kind of guy who just felt like I got in over my head. No chance. Okay. There are too many messages.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I felt the same way today. I was like, you know what? I felt like this guy, oh, you know, he went along. He's such a wimp.
Listen,
and
let me tell you something.
Yeah.
For him, out of nowhere, okay, talking to his buddies who start asking, oh, is she hot? And here we go with what's going to start out as probably improper locker room talk. And all of a sudden, this morphs into discussing someone he arrested wearing a colostomy bag and making jokes about pooping.
Yeah.
Okay. And then that's not the end of that.
That's so dehumanizing.
It's totally
it's like such a thing. Like, everyone has cared for someone in their family or seen something, like
it's
had
unbelievable.
cancer. You know,
I know
it's just
people that
awful.
have that.
Yeah.
I know people very closely who have
Exactly.
that, and I'm sure many others do. And to this guy, a person that he arrests, okay, whatever, that's the joke he thinks of. And then when he's bored on the day they're going to arrest her, he talks to his other buddy who's a witness. Nice job, by the way, of Jackson listing all their names. Pay attention. They're all on the witness list. All of these dirtbags. He's sitting there bored with nothing left to do in June. So he decides to text his partner. You know, I think he said, I wrote it down. Do you like women who shit themselves?
Oh,
That's what he's thinking
yeah.
with nothing else to do when he's arresting her. It's just insanity. And there's Yuri likes it. Ha ha.
Yeah.
That's his boss.
So
And what
that hurts his credibility too.
totally,
And you know what's true?
totally.
What else I noticed too is they are not comedians, but they always come back with, remember the number cracker or whatever that was? It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Their abuse is always just a joke. It's just comedy. It's just guys having a joke.
Well, the problem here that you learned today, which was the brilliance of under promising and over delivering, is it. You might have made that argument if it was one or two texts to one or two people on one or two dates. This is, though, what I call systemic. It's again and again and again to other people. And it's not just the misogyny. He had the misogyny part of it, clearly. He had the dehumanizing her physical condition, literally her physical health. He was attacking her mental health. I'm not saying that's warranted, but he called her, as by my count, on no less than 3 times a whack job. Used
And who's
word.
the whack job? It's Michael
By the way,
Proctor's a whack job. That's who's a
everybody,
whack job.
everybody
Michael.
comfortable with a police officer using the word retarded, talking
Yeah.
about people. I mean, that makes me feel good when they have to respond to situations. There may be people who have, mental health issues or are disabled, developmentally disabled, but it's not even just all of that sick stuff. I mean, he's having conversations about gifts. Okay. That is literally the definition of corruption. And when he said, "Oh, I didn't take any gifts," dude, nobody said you took any gifts, but your response was, "Give it to my wife."
Yeah, you
Right?
were right. You were ready to accept it. You were ready to accept.
Not that's not proper. Just give it to my wife.
Yeah.
You have the stuff with the medical examiner where they are attempting to influence a witness to give them a conclusion that they want so they can indict a murder case. So he's tampering. I mean, that may be a strong word in a legal sense, but he's said they're essentially hotboxing the medical examiner to get her to change stuff and then joking, "Oh, you weren't good enough. You should have done it this way," or, she's going to screw it up and say she still can't make a decision. So they're messing with that. He's talking to, his sister about, "Oh, Jennifer McCabe, oh, she knows knows your wife or knows your sister," or whatever it was. How does that make McCabe look? That's what she's throwing out on day one. There are so many different angles to this. And to the extent that this guy could have fallen on the sword when he didn't, all it does is make the jurors realize, of course, he's the kind of guy
Who
who
would
could
do
plant
this?
evidence. Because I don't like this whack job. I
Yeah.
want her to kill herself. I'm gonna humiliate her again and again. And you don't think that part of that humiliation could be cracking some taillight in the Sally port when
Absolutely.
the video wasn't showing what we all
That
think?
kind of hate. Come on. So
And
like,
and
yeah,
he's working and he's catching
I
cases.
know this is unbelievable. This is
But I think
unreal that he's
but I
still
think
working
this is
cases.
part of him getting his due process, though. Now it's like he's admitted what happened, and I think you'll see the end of him sooner than later.
Yeah, I hope so. We got Mazza Media in the green room. Let's bring him up now and see what he thinks about today as well. Mazza, what's up, brother?
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Attorney Mark
How are
Bederow.
you?
Good
How are
evening,
you?
my friends. Michael Proctor, what a sick asshole, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. He's he's out there and just trying to make it seem like, oh well, my opinions about her in text messages when I was joking had nothing to do with my ability to, investigate this particular case at all. When he's basically hoping for her death, he actually called her a retard. And when he's referring to Yanetti's client, Yanetti's clients are retard. It's this dude. This is just as bad as we thought it was, and he's doing the same thing Brian Albert did. It's the big stoic game. He knows he's on the hot seat right now. That's for sure. And Alan Jackson has got a lot more for him. That's all I gotta say. This is just starting to build up, but it was his just demeanor. It was, like I said, it was stoic, but the text messages, I mean, Adam Lally tried to kind of get to those questions first and address them and all that. But when you're telling people, oh, I'm searching for her nude photos, well, you didn't say, maybe I should search her phone. You basically outright said that you had. And I imagine Karen was just sitting there completely creeped out by
Did
this
you
guy.
see
I mean,
her crossed hands? I
Yeah.
love this. She was like this.
Oh yeah.
Like she was just like, you could tell.
Oh yeah.
Well, he actually said, I didn't find any nudes so far.
So
But
yeah.
Right.
I can't believe that if Lally was going to decide to do this on his own, that at a minimum, he didn't tell him, you're going to look her in the eye, okay, in front of the jury, and you're going to apologize. All right. Be a man. Doesn't mean she's not guilty or guilty. I get it. But you need to clean this mess up. And we're going to do this the right way. And I need the jury to know that, meaning Lally, I'm not a dirtbag. I don't think this is okay. And only Lally could do this in a way where he made it worse, where he should have just let Jackson bring it up on his own on cross, because all Lally did was show he really only has one dial tone speed. Okay. Because today was the day to show a little bit of
Motion,
calmness, slow it down, say
humanity. Yeah.
didn't
Just
do it.
done.
And he just wanted Proctor to justify it because she's guilty, and then objects on cross. And all he did was establish that he's almost as awful as Proctor is. I mean, I don't blame him for what Proctor said and did. I don't think that the prosecutor would agree with that, but why couldn't he have done this in a way to show that, as ladies and gentlemen, as the prosecutor, it's okay to hate this guy. I don't approve of this either, but she's still guilty if that's what you believe. And instead, what he did was essentially excuse it and align himself with Proctor. And the jury already hates him for the fake video that he tried to sneak by. And then this, and then the Dighton cop. And does anybody think, a single juror thinks at this point, that they're ever going to find her guilty of anything?
I doubt it. And I'm glad you said that too. Like just about the facts that he didn't apologize. Like you think between
because he
Adam
doesn't
Lally
care.
and Proctor,
He's not sorry.
yeah, and or even that woman prosecutor that barely ever speaks. You think somebody would have said, "Hey, the only way you're going to be able to do this is look her in the eyes and actually really give a heartfelt apology, because what you did was disgusting." Like I can't believe nobody said that.
What did he call it? Like he tried to denounce it as like what, adolescent behavior, juvenile behavior, or something
as
like
a joke and as joke.
Yeah.
Listen, it's such amateur from the prosecution side of this whole case, and they're just not ready for prime time. And the whole world is watching this and seeing it. And I mean, Michael Proctor is, again, this goes so beyond him. The Massachusetts State Police have a crisis, and it's a fully blown public crisis at this point, because at least 6, 7 or more of these people were involved in this. They all think it's okay to harass the medical examiner, to say what they want, to say these terrible things about someone they arrested, to make these atrocious comments that are misogynist, insensitive for other reasons, to violate, HIPAA rights that certainly she has by disclosing any medical conditions, which no one should ever have, no matter what it is. And they just don't care. And Proctor's not capable of caring. And why he didn't take the fifth, because if he did, 90% of this would not have come out. Okay. What would have probably come out are some of the stuff that you heard about in the opening, which is pretty bad too. But what you heard today was 1,000 times worse. And this guy exposed himself. YouTube is forever, or
Exposed
Google,
himself. Like,
Google.
I mean, at this point,
Yeah.
it sounds like someone that would be creepy enough to do that.
Well, I mean, legally and credibility wise.
Sorry.
But these videos are going to get played again and again and again. And people are going to see, most importantly, his lack of sincerity in what he was saying. His body language he just wanted to get through it. He didn't care. And this guy, he's got a wife for now, and he said 2 kids. And how awful do you feel for his 2 young children? Okay. And, I'm sure their dad is their hero, and he may very well be an outstanding father to those kids. and all of that. But their father has disgraced himself, disgraced his badge, done so many things that he's never going to recover from. Okay. His career is over. He's disgraced his family. Nobody, I think, at some point will be shocked if his wife says, "This is too much for me." You know, the baggage of it all, the humiliation of it all. So, you know, I don't know what his private life is. It doesn't really matter, but I don't think anyone would be surprised if that blows up in his face. And he just for, he's gone. Okay. But for the dignity of his wife and children, to protect them as best he could, couldn't he have fallen on it and eaten this with some sincerity, or at least pretend, just so his family's name doesn't get dragged in the mud like he's dragged his own name? Because he's disgraced. He's gone forever and probably has other legal problems. But, you know, the way he did it today, it's just beyond pathetic. And for her to have to sit there and listen to that and not get an apology, as her whole, you know, medical history and other issues are just thrown out there, it's sick. And it's just sick. And the DA and Proctor's message to the jury was, well, it's a joke, and he was upset because, you know, she's guilty. So
Yeah. And
don't
doesn't
worry
that,
about it.
yeah, and doesn't that help the defense again? Because,
Yes.
you know, if your excuse is, I did it because she's guilty, what else did you do because she's guilty that you think she's guilty?
You know, it's so
Because
funny.
he thinks he has the right to violate people's rights because he thinks someone's guilty. That's which is crazy.
You know all these things now that you didn't know about the messages, and then you go back and you say, well, some of the discussion was, well, are they going to call him or not? Is he going to take the fifth or not? And you sit here and you say, if he had his lawyer say that he intends to take the fifth on anything substantive, and, you know, he would have had a good faith basis to do it. I know the Dighton cop is going to contradict me on the taillight, right? I know that it doesn't match the pieces that I, you know, also said, just like Yuri, the evidence would reveal itself, which was another poor word choice for them to match that language. He had many good reasons. The Sally Port video being inverted, the other video missing time. He could totally have said, not that he wanted to have said this in front of the judge outside the presence of the jury, that I can't answer any questions because anything about this case is going to incriminate me. And for some reason that I'll never understand, he just said, the hell with it. I'm all in. And he gave it all up. He probably perjured himself. You know, that's for others to decide at another date based upon what the state of the evidence is. But he is on record 1,010%. And I think he said it in 6 different varieties, in 6 different statements today, that I never touched that taillight. I never tampered with it. I never did this. And the condition that I found it in was the condition where we saw it previously, including the actual taillight today, where it was like 95% white. And I don't know if there's real video that shows him doing anything. I thought maybe you'd see that today. You didn't. I don't know if it's coming or not, but the idea that the feds are somehow done with him because he testified in the grand jury months ago, to those who may be watching who are less educated than us, that does not mean that the feds are done with you. Okay. That does not mean that you may in fact well be a target. And if anybody thinks it was a good idea for Proctor to testify today and that he somehow helped the DA's case, respectfully, you need to get your head checked.
Question for you, Mark. Do you think that of the questions that he was asked today by Alan Jackson in the very, small amount of time that he was cross-examined, did you think that anything that was asked would have been grounds for him to plead the fifth? And then let me ask an additional portion of that question. Don't you think that when he does plead the fifth, if he does plead the fifth, that it's going to be a more drastic question somewhere along the lines? And if so, what do you imagine would probably be that kind of question?
The Fifth Amendment for Michael Proctor has left the building. He opened the door and testified to every question about every potential involvement in the case, including potentially tampering with evidence, recovering with evidence, searching her phone, the contents of text messages, why I sent the text messages, what I meant, what I think the other people meant, which is probably not an appropriate thing for him to say, but putting that all aside, at this point, he doesn't even have the ability to rely on the fifth, because he could literally and just say, I'm not answering. And, no court officer is going to put a gun to his head and say, listen, you scumbag, answer the question. So he may literally say, I'm not answering that. But if he tries to wrap it up as because I have a constitutional right not to self-incrimination, that ship sailed. So if he doesn't testify further, then he could be held in contempt for sure. And all of his direct testimony could be stricken from the record. So, but he's too far gone, and I'll never understand it. I know he has real representation, and you have to respect the fact that he and his lawyer know things that none of us do. We're just, in the peanut gallery making educated analysis of what's happening, but we don't know what they know. We just don't know. And so I don't think just because someone would represent Proctor that they're a bad lawyer. I don't. His lawyers, as I understand it, is a former prosecutor as well, experienced in these things, and apparently made the decision he'll testify. I don't know why, but I have to respect his own lawyer's level of analysis. But putting that aside, that ship has left the building, and whatever the feds may have on him, he's at risk.
Yeah. Mike, you're on mute.
Yeah.
A lot of clowns will bring up that he hasn't received a target letter.
Okay, well, maybe one's coming in the future. Look, federal investigations can go in different directions. And when somebody is a target or a subject or even just a witness in a federal investigation, it's not like a snapshot at one point in time where somebody may be a target, a subject, or a witness, and that's it, no backsies, you can't change my status. Sometimes people are subjects in an investigation, and depending on where the investigation goes, nothing happens. They become witnesses or nothing. Sometimes someone who's a subject becomes a target, but that can come weeks, months, years later. And then they get a little nasty letter called a target letter, which generally happens when you're going to be a target in an investigation. But the idea that just because somebody didn't get a target letter and at one point testified in the grand jury does not somehow lead to the conclusion, that's it, it's over, they're home free, they're done. That just is not how it works. So the man may not have had a target letter yet, and okay, and he may not have been a target. That's fine too. That doesn't mean that ultimately he won't be. And that doesn't mean also if somebody wasn't going to be prosecuted on something, that they don't later commit other conduct in connection with the stuff that later turns them into a target. So for someone to claim victory that I know what's going on because I didn't get a target letter is sometimes a warranted conclusion. But in the context of what you're dealing with here, in an ongoing federal investigation where there appears to be some pretty credible evidence that the lead investigator for the state police did some things he shouldn't have done, that's premature. I mean, I don't know what he was asked about in the grand jury. I don't know whether he got a subpoena to testify in a grand jury. That's usually the way it works. And I don't know what he said. I don't know what he was asked about. Maybe he was just asked about his relationship with some of these people based on the text messages or the possible gifts. I don't know if he was asked about the taillight. I don't know if he was asked about any of this other stuff. I don't know if he was asked about, trying to get the medical examiner to say what they want to say or any of this stuff. You can't draw a conclusion because at a certain snapshot in time, the guy never got a target letter. That's all.
Now we're hearing Kevin Reddington, who is Jennifer McCabe's attorney, was there today. Here's a comment from Anita. She says, rumor has it the McCabe's lawyers approached the bench on a break before Proctor took the stand. What would that have been about?
Nothing to do with Jennifer McCabe. I mean, that would be inappropriate. I mean, if he's there in the capacity as Jennifer McCabe's lawyer, who's already been a witness in the case, and Proctor is a witness, she has no right to have her lawyer This is not an attack on the lawyer, by the way. The lawyer is just a lawyer. He may be there for something else. I don't know. But, you know, somebody there on behalf of Jennifer McCabe has no right to have, you know, an ex parte, meaning just her and the judge, or the lawyer and the judge, without the other side, which in this case, I don't know who would be, because I don't know why he was there, a conversation about how it impacts Jennifer McCabe. So I'm going to guess that it had something to do with something different.
Excellent. Yeah, it could be. I mean, he could have been there for another client too.
Well,
I mean,
somebody
that
here
happens.
says he represents Brian Walsh. Is that true?
I don't know about that. I'm not sure. Do you know about that, Mazza?
I don't know. I don't know enough about
Well,
that.
if he does, if he does, that's why he's there, because Proctor is one of the main witnesses. So I'm told. Don't shoot me if I'm wrong. I don't know
Right.
much about that case. But if you are representing the accused murderer in that case, and Michael Proctor was the so-called star witness against you, and you heard that Michael Proctor is going to testify in this case and get annihilated and basically admit to all kinds of terrible misconduct and probably lie about other things that he won't admit, you know, I would think that you would want to be there and see for yourself, what are you dealing with? And the reality is, Proctor is poison. He can't continue on any case. He has, I think, any sensible citizen would say he's forfeited his right to be a public safety officer. He doesn't have the maturity. He doesn't have the credibility. He doesn't have the honesty. He doesn't have the integrity. He is literally just a disgusting, despicable human being who misused and abused his authority. And the thing that should scare people is he doesn't care.
Exactly.
He only said what he said today because
he-
he had to, but there was no real emotion behind it. And if there was, he would have looked at Karen Reed in the eye, whether he thinks that she killed her boyfriend or not, and said, I'm sorry, that was wrong. And whatever this case is or isn't, that is disgraceful on my part. I'm sorry, unconditionally. And he
that
didn't do it.
that might have gone a long way with a lot of people. I really
Maybe.
feel like
I mean, maybe, but and the other thing is, again, you know, Lally doesn't have it in him to do it, and Proctor doesn't have it in him to do it. And these are the people in charge of this case. And then you compare them, you know, to the other lawyers, and you know, you realize why the verdict in this case, if it gets to a jury, which I still have doubts about, but I'm wrong about stuff. I was wrong about Proctor taking the fifth. I thought there was no chance he'd testify. But one thing I'm pretty confident in, I mean, the idea that she's going to get convicted,
no,
it's not
no way.
happening.
Yeah,
So
no
for
way.
that reason alone, if they had any dignity, they would dismiss it. But there's many reasons why they should dismiss
I
it.
hear so many people say, I don't know if she's guilty or not, but she's not guilty in terms of the evidence, like in terms of they haven't proved anything. So I mean, a lot of people feel like that the case is just terrible, which it's obvious it's terrible.
The
Here's
case
another.
is over. I mean,
Yeah.
whatever you think she did or didn't do, it's over. But on the other hand, you know, let's be honest, the defense actually in the last few days has made a lot of headway in honest to God offering very credible evidence that she may very well have been framed, and that they may very well have done something in that Sally port to create the evidence against her.
Not a
So
good look when Michael Proctor's, you know, saying all these things he's saying about her in text messages and everything that's come up on him either. I mean, that really kind of really refutes his, you know, him being an investigator that's supposed to be unbiased and objective
Impartial.
and,
You're right.
and
and
if he said,
impartial. And
yeah,
he's out there saying all these things, and the jury heard it today. The jury
Yeah.
heard it. And I think
You
that's
Well,
beautiful.
shouldn't be
Karen,
emotionally
because
invested like
the
that.
that's
That's
right.
like,
jury heard it. And, you know, one of the things we said, I don't think you were here yet, Mazza, was you never see cops, not never, but it's rare, where you
Yeah.
have a credible allegation from a defendant to impeach a police officer with evidence of actual personal bias and animus, as opposed to just a general, you know,
general. Yeah.
cops hate
Right.
corpse, so you're
Yeah.
going to do me dirty
Right.
because you did. But in this case, the guy who sent these god awful messages and who the jury just needs to take a shower by being within 10
Mm.
feet of him.
Mhm.
They also have evidence that he personally loathes Karen Reed.
Right.
And he also happens to be, this is really great for the DA, of all the people, he's the one guy hanging out in the Sally Port unaccounted for potentially up to 42 minutes.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
on another flipped video that hid him from view,
Mm.
and who claims to have found, several pieces of taillight, and who claims to have held on to evidence for 6 weeks. I mean, you could go on and on.
Lied about the tow time. It's just on and on. Misspelled all the names in the reports.
Yep.
Here's a question. It's so interested in some of these currencies that are coming in because I don't even know where this currency is. We got a few. One from Denmark. I don't know what this one is. I'd love to know what country this question's coming from. But the question is for Bederow. What are your thoughts about Bev after she didn't acknowledge the reverse video?
She had a pretty strange day. In the very beginning, she hit peak what you guys have all felt from day one. I mean,
Right.
you had the strongest case ever for about the first hour or hour and a half when they were, and I was driving home listening to this. So I couldn't actually see it. But when they were arguing about, the late disclosure, and Yannetti wanted to get his good digs in, which he had every right to if they're accusing him of doing something he didn't do. And she was very dismissive and didn't want to hear it and stop with the histrionics. So she was awful this morning. I mean, brutally bad. And she doesn't apparently care about the video. And even during the cross of that was like, sustaining objections, move on, when she shouldn't have. That you let that cross go because it goes to the heart of the case. So she was terrible. And then Lally, snatching, what is it? Snatching defeat from the jaws of it, or snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. I just butchered the statement.
I think you get it right. Yeah, close enough.
He, of course, then later in the day, with this Proctor stuff, screwed it up so badly, and where she was pissed, which is understandable. I mean, judge or not, she's also a human being and a woman, okay, listening to this. And also, maybe the light went on in her head. I mean, she's a judge. She's never going to say this, but this is not good. And this is real evidence. And I think also a judge is going to be, and lawyers may draw more attention to the less sexy stuff than the public, about the stuff with the medical examiner, about the stuff with Jennifer McCabe. That stuff is really bad about the integrity of the case. But when he tried to get all soft spoken, she told him, I want to hear it. And when he tried not to spell out the word that none of us are going to mention right now, to her credit, and I assume that's what the objection was, which is, let him read it. Okay, let's hear it. Let's get our money's worth. If you want to be a man, then
Say the word.
When
You
the
wrote
check
it.
when
You
the check
say
is
it.
due, you need to cash out and give it all up. And she was very clear about, let's get this out there, and I want to hear it. And I thought she had very little patience with him. But then at the very end, when Lally started objecting, and yeah, some of the stuff Jackson was saying is probably not in a legal sense appropriate, but it's one of those questions where it doesn't matter if the objection's sustained. The jury knows what I'm talking about, the points being made. She did sustain some of that. And honestly, I think she should have let him go. He earned the right to really grill him on that. And she also, I mean, look, some judges, she doesn't really talk about her thoughts, but when Lally started objecting to what he clearly introduced in evidence, I know what judges would have done in New York. When he objected, they would look at him and say, on what basis? Never mind the sidebars. On what basis? And then he would, humada, because there is no basis. Your Honor, it hurts. It hurts. And she would have said, you open the door. You put this all out there. He has every right to enhance that testimony, basically overruled sit down. And she didn't do that. She sustained some of it. So she's still a little bit all over the place, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she was all over the place this morning, first thing, especially, I don't know if you guys had already talked about it thoroughly already, but I mean,
No.
it looked like she was running a communist court this morning. And David Yannetti stood up there and stayed right in the pocket and just kept firing it back. Your
Right.
Honor, I need to say this. Your
Right.
Honor, respectfully, I need to say this. I mean, I'm sitting there like, it's early in the morning. I'm barely awake. And I'm like, Dave, you are the man. And I love you, bro. Because I mean, he refused. And she tried and tried and tried and tried. And she was, I don't care what her argument was. She was acting friggin' sinister this morning.
Oh, it's
Sinister
ridiculous.
this morning. And it was like, I understand maybe it's 30 minutes ahead of time. You had to get up a little bit early. I understand maybe you missed a cup of coffee this morning, but the
Yeah,
way
she was
you're acting
cranky. Yeah.
was entirely inappropriate of a judge. Not excessively inappropriate, but inappropriate enough where everyone was, on this side at least, was agitated by her behavior. It was very distracting to listen to. And David, to his credit, just stayed there and just kept bouncing back about why it was his point that he needed to make it. And I'm happy, because this has been the primary issue going back to the hearings, is the defense has tried to get certain things stated, and they got to battle through Lally's objections. He doesn't even know what he's objecting to half the time, as we've kind of confirmed, or established. And you got Auntie Bev up there battling them every step of the way. Why is this relevant? Why is this relevant? I got to make my case. And she just keeps interrupting over and over and over again. And Lally gets up there half the time, makes no comments of any relevance, statements of no relevance, has no plan. Um, he's never really, other than maybe speaking louder, she has really never gone after him about anything. Has almost maximum patience with the guy. And then this morning, the way she treated Yannetti was ridiculous. And I'm glad Yannetti, I mean, because it was the point where Yannetti was like, look, just let me effing frickin' talk, would you? I thought, well, Yannetti was ready to push contempt in court at one point, because it was just like, look, why don't you just let me effing talk? I mean, he was on the verge of doing it. And at that point, you have to cool yourself down. You have to start kind of letting yourself cool off a bit and be like, okay, I really want to go off on Auntie Bev right now. I really want to say how much she's upsetting me, but I got to be a professional lawyer. I'm in the court of law. I can't upset the judge here. But again, this is how she acts when the jury is not in the room too. Sometimes it's like, it's frustrating to watch, again, especially when you're, no one more than Karen Reed, no one more than Karen Reed's family and friends, of course. But when you're a part of the whole support group of Karen, like we all are, it's just extremely frustrating to watch, especially when her freedom's on the line and there's consequences on the line here. It's a clear cover up. It's a clear frame job. And you have to draw a judge that's battling your attorneys to the upteenth level. And it gets frustrating. And I see Karen sometimes in the way she reacts. And I sit there and I'm like, I'm right with you, Karen. I feel the same exact way. And I don't blame you for having that reaction, because I have that reaction. And everybody that's in the comments section right now is probably going to, in a moment, write the same exact thing that they felt the same exact way, because it's all universal for all of us. But it's frustrating. In her behavior, it's like she didn't have any kind of patience. And whether or not she wanted to not have him say certain things, she could have had a little bit more patience and asked him to present them in different ways. Instead, she was pretty much combative with them and playing gatekeeper with them. And I just didn't appreciate that at all.
Yeah, no, she's trying to keep out, savior arguments for the jury and all of that, which on the one hand I get, but she's also not recognizing that the point of him doing this is to say they said untrue things about me in a publicly filed document that is attempting to impugn my integrity, and it's not right. They're factually inaccurate, and you need to know that in considering the merits of the motion. So he had every right to make a record. And if she wants to say, do it in chambers so you're not publicly screaming and yelling, I don't even care about, closing the courtroom and the legality of that. But for her to basically say, I don't want to hear it, and the heavy breathing and sighing, I know we all heard it.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm driving and I could hear it and I'm laughing.
You're right.
There you go, it's back. It's wrong. But then, the argument itself was pointless, because what did she do at the end? She didn't rule in the DA's favor. She said, all right, I'm not excluding any witnesses. Get them what you're supposed to give them. And then we'll have
figure it out.
We'll do
voir dire, right?
a voir dire of an
Voir
evidentiary hearing on whether these witnesses are qualified to testify. Here's a newsflash. They're going to be able to testify. Okay. And, the fact that she's basically saying, you're not turning over information related to these experts, and what Yannetti was saying. Yeah, but we're not allowed to talk to them. Basically, what am I giving you? There's nothing I can really do, but They weren't hired by us. You know their reports. You know what they're going to say. And when she says, well, it's not clear how,
You
what
plan
it is,
to question them, use them, right? Yeah.
whatever. So you'll examine them in an evidentiary hearing, but there's no way she's
She's
going to
gonna
be in
deny.
position to keep any of these witnesses out, including the dog bite one.
Good,
There's
good.
no way.
We got another great comment here. I like this comment. This is about Proctor. They say, where is that personal animus and so early in the case coming from? Goes to personal relationships. Again, it just
He
kind of
is.
proves, right?
I think there is something seriously wrong with him. I think I mean, again, to me, he demonstrated some sociopath tendencies.
Thank you.
I'm not, and by the way, I have no training in psychiatry or anything like
It's
that,
there.
but enough when you do this for a living, you get
Mhm.
a little familiar with this stuff. He had no ability to demonstrate any genuine feelings for
Yeah.
anyone other than himself, which is a classic sociopath. And his attempt, I mean, how many times did they practice this? And it just didn't work. He could not have been less sincere in what he was saying. And by the time the day went on, it got to the point where he was defending himself because she's guilty and I had a search warrant and the search warrant gave me authority and there's nothing wrong with this case. So let's be done with this. Who cares? The two of them, lawyer and witness, they should just be ashamed of themselves. I mean, and they probably have no self-awareness to realize how bad this was and that they would have been better off just not popping the bubble and letting Jackson have a field day and just have it come out all on cross. Because if you're going to do it in a way to deflate it on direct, the idea is to deflate it and get the jury feeling maybe it's not as bad. And it had the exact opposite effect because the jury is not stupid. They've seen all of these witnesses. Because Lally waited 6 months before calling Proctor, they've heard everything bad about him, including seeing pictures of him skulking around the Sally Port. And then they hear that this is what he is, and it's never ending. You just keep waiting. I mean, on direct, didn't you think, okay, there's the 5 messages. Here comes some more. And here comes some more. I mean, it was so many more than you thought that there's just no chance that the jury is going to credit him, whether they believe him or not. And I don't think they do. Why would they? But they're still human beings. And if you think they're going to credit anything he said and be okay with that,
No,
particularly the women. And
exactly.
it was a daily double too, because when when Proctor went, over the cliff, he kind of hugged Yuri and the other knuckleheads and took them with him. So
Exactly.
every state police trooper in this case went over the cliff
Tainted.
holding hands with Proctor today.
Yeah, they're tainted. He tainted them.
Yuri is gone just from the video fiasco in this. Some of these other names that you've heard that are coming up are involved in some of these messages and attempting to influence the medical examiner. And I mean, look at this, look at the other state cops who testified. Did this guy Yuri strike you as somebody who feels he knows what he could have been crossed on and he wasn't? And that's okay. But did he look like the kind of guy who felt bad about anything related to this? No.
No.
And he's Proctor's boss.
Yeah, he's a bro.
They
Got a couple questions came in about Bev and documents. Like basically someone said, doesn't Bev know all this stuff before the trial? And another one said, Mark, comment on Bev acting like she doesn't know what evidence is coming in each day.
Yeah, that's weird in terms of her sometimes not knowing. On the other hand, judges don't necessarily study as much as you think beforehand about everything. I mean, they may have a general overview. They may know the issues in the case. They may know there are these terrible text messages and whatnot. But does she necessarily know the level of just the pervasive and systemic misogynist, corrupt, and all the other stuff that you could describe these messages as? She may not have known to what extent that was. And I think you could tell that from her attitude. I think she came off as very stunned and very angry, at least for 30 minutes or so in terms of directing him to speak up, my man. We all want to hear it. Want to make sure the jurors in the back can hear loud and clear what you're saying. But she does act sometimes like she doesn't know what evidence is coming in because she may not.
Absolutely. We've got quite a few questions coming in here. This one's about the Sally port about Proctor. Because Lally didn't ask about it to Proctor, does the defense have to wait until they call him to question? They can question him tomorrow, right?
No. I mean, cross-examination, if it goes to credibility or as long as it somehow relates to the subject matter, you don't have to do that. And let's face it, what Proctor did testify today at least 6 times, probably perjuriously, but that's for someone else to decide on another day, is he could not have been any clearer that I never touched the taillight. And the taillight that you saw the picture on February 3rd or 1st, whatever it was, where it's basically all white with a tiny piece of red, is exactly how I saw it on January 29th. And that is plenty to allow the defense to go after the Sally port and ask what it looked like. And one of the things that's fascinating about this issue, and pay attention if you live in a yellow cottage, you might learn something here about, is it proper for a police officer investigating, or a case manager, as it were, investigating a case to look at the taillight? The answer is, of course. But I don't think I'm breaking investigative news here, but one of the things you might want to do if you are inspecting a taillight of what you believe was a fatal car accident is take a freaking picture or 20 of it in a way where you can preserve the metadata, meaning the date, time, proof of when it was taken. And that should have happened before the car went in the Sally port, not on February 3rd, on January 29th. It should have happened when they arranged to have, they went to the house to have the car towed. How are you not taking a picture right there?
As soon as possible.
When they sum up on this, they're going to kill him on this, because this guy told you with a straight face today that based upon my extensive experience of about 3 prior car accident cases, there was a big fact that happened today that told me right away, this is a fatal car accident. And that was John O'Keefe was missing a shoe. That was the big reveal for Proctor that he kept going back to, that told him it might have been a car accident. Now, that seems a little far-fetched to me, but if you accept that at face value, okay, then you're going to look at the car. Now, what else did he do before he went to look at the car? He already had the tow truck en route. So I think it's pretty obvious he's looking at this as a fatal car accident case, potentially arrest, whatever. He goes to that house, right? They interview her that day, and they were arranging to take the car away. And he never takes a picture of the taillight or inspects it. Now, again, unless you live in a yellow cottage in somebody's attic, would you ever believe that that's possible?
No.
That, in fact, no police officer of any sort, Canton PD, state police, anyone, up until February 1st or 3rd, decided we need the crime scene unit to take a picture. Investigatively, that's impossible. That would never happen. I know there's police officers that watch this and are, I talk to cops all the time. They would laugh if you told them that this guy's testimony was, I knew this was a car accident. I knew all this, but it wasn't important to me to take any pictures. Somebody's talking about a warrant. This was an issue today I don't know what the procedural posture was, but if you take Yuri's testimony and Proctor's testimony, and that's all the evidence, and I don't know that it is, they had no basis to seize the vehicle and take it away. They had no basis to seize her phone and take it away. And these dopes were testifying in a way where the Fourth Amendment to them applies to searches. But unfortunately for them, what the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution talks about are searches and seizures, meaning when they decide under the law to take your property. You can't, as a police officer, just take her car because you think she did something. You need to establish that there's probable cause and get a search warrant. That's not what they said. They said he wasn't wearing a shoe. I thought it was a car accident. And we called the tow truck and went down there and said, we're taking the car and then we're going to get a warrant and search it. But the problem is the actual seizure of the vehicle. And the same thing with the phone. They never said she consented to his search. They never said they got a warrant. All he said was, I saw her passcode, which is a little creepy too, in light of everything that's going on here. But he never said I had a right to search her phone with a warrant at that point, or seize it. More importantly, did she consent? I don't know. I don't know what the lawyers have even argued, but the way it's coming out, it definitely sounds like they didn't do it. And the way they're talking about it is that this is standard operating procedure for them. We go down there, we tell them we need to take the phone in the car, and then we go get warrants. This is the kind of testimony that should make prosecutors freak out, because the impression these guys are giving is that this is their standard operating procedure. And it may not be a factor in this case. I don't know, but there could be a lot of, suppression motions and whatnot, even if it's after the fact, that could be coming, because these guys, the way they testified and the way they were asked the questions by Lally, never established that they had a basis to do it. And it's very telling that Lally didn't ask, because he is the most insufferable prosecutor you've ever seen. And he'll ask any question about anything, anytime. And to not ask these types of questions at least gives you the impression that maybe he didn't ask them because they didn't do it right.
Absolutely. Couple comments that came in that I like. They went to Jen McCabe's house first. That's where the hate started. How are they still employed? I mean, that's another good
think
point.
about that. He says, I heard there was a missing shoe. I looked at him in the hospital. I made all these determinations that there was a crime. And his first response is, let me go talk to Jennifer McCabe.
Yeah. Unreal.
He never went to 34 Fairview Road until I think February 3rd is what he said. Now, of course, most people don't believe that. And he also appeared to fudge the testimony about how he came into possession of the cell phone in a similar thing, where what he said today was very different than about going to the crime scene to get it. And they tried to split hairs. What do you mean by crime scene?
Which crime scene? Yeah.
Right. Today, though, I think he said they got it at the hospital or something different altogether. But if this guy's a lead investigator on a case that he thinks is a serious vehicular homicide, he never goes to the crime scene for 3 days, even though he's told they found taillight pieces that night. Even though he knows, right away, they told him who Brian Albert was and who all these people are. And the way he was going to handle it is, I'm just going to, go to McCabe. And then the next thing he knows, he finds out that McCabe is telling people that, we know people in common. We know people. I mean, what's that all about? I mean, all of this whole case just stinks to high hell. And anybody who's been fairly looking at it could tell from so long ago that there were so many problems. That's why even the first day I met you, I said, I don't know how this case got indicted, but the more you let alone tried, but the more you learn about it, the scandal has extended.
Just grows. Yeah.
It's so bad.
It really does.
So bad that at this point, you have to wonder what is going to happen with the state police from a PR standpoint.
Yeah, definitely.
This is larger than Karen Reed, even though, that's not meant to be dismissive of her. But beyond one criminal case is this fear that, what do you think? This is the only time they've ever done that?
That's right.
There's no way.
Exactly.
If
How many
anything,
times has he
no way.
hated people? How many times has he hated people like
Right.
this too? That he was,
if
If anything, the fact that they've done this before gave them the arrogance to do this 2 years ago.
Exactly.
I mean, if you sent this many text messages to this many different people, meaning different walks of life, friends, family, and all you're doing is ranting and raving, attacking her, criticizing her, humiliating her, telling people information they're not entitled to, whether it be investigative, personal medical history, just to harm, humiliate. That's not the kind of thing that, just happened overnight. And it's clear that all of these guys on the case in the state police, that they have a really sick working relationship. I mean, your boss is laughing at, what they think of, looking for nudes of Yannetti's retarded client. He thinks that's funny. I'm the
That's
boss.
crazy.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
When I was a financial advisor, if you ever sent a message like that to a manager, you'd be fired instantly. I think house cleaners are more professional than what I saw from these state police. Like the house cleaners that come into my house, I trust them more than these state police. I mean, they show way more professionalism. So,
These
this
guys,
is the level that we're talking about here.
but again, the worst part is it's the lack of professionalism is part of it, like the misogyny, the violation of her dignity with the information that they're sharing. But don't dismiss the less sexier, for lack of a better term, part of this about bullying the medical examiner to say what we need. That's
right.
bad.
That's huge.
Okay,
That's huge.
bad. Or don't dismiss the part about don't get me a gift, but you can get my wife a gift. That is by definition corruption. Okay. The only logical answer to that by an honest police officer is, yeah, you don't need to do that. It's my job. We're good. I don't take gratuities from witnesses in a case, especially with what we're dealing with. The sharing of sensitive information about the case with his buddies that he testifies to, and then 10 minutes later says, I would never share information with family or friends, when he's trying to defend the emails or text messages to his sister. And he's apparently so corrupt and so stupid that he can't remember 10 minutes earlier, he just testified to telling his buddies all about, the dead guy on the lawn of the Boston police cop who's not going to be in any trouble. And then he's talking about, the defendant and this and that. I mean, this is like just a disaster on so many different levels, but it's sick. I mean, all of this is sick. And you had a prosecutor, I know I'm repeating myself, but you had a prosecutor in court today trying to diffuse this, who only gave the impression, I'm not going to diffuse it. I'm going to exploit it. Okay. Rather than let the defense do it on their own, under the auspice of getting him to look sympathetic by popping the balloon, I'm going to be able to have him explain to say, because she's guilty, because we have powerful evidence. So shame on the DA. He's a disgrace too. He really is.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Absolutely can't believe that he would allow himself and soil himself and his reputation on TV in a case of this magnitude, knowing the content of those text messages, by not having a little more backbone in front of the jury and making it clear, I'm stuck with this guy. He's my witness. I don't pick my witnesses on the witness tree. I get it. Okay. Yeah. Sometimes you get a priest. Other times you get a dirtbag. This time I have a dirtbag with a badge. It's not good, but you still, as the prosecutor, have to have that bond with the jury. I mean, the other day he soiled his credibility with the video. Today was another chance. And he failed the test miserably, because all he did was act like an apologist and try to justify it and exploit it to his advantage, and then object on cross when, the defense attorney was trying to do his job. It's just pathetic.
Proctor stands more to lose than anyone that was actually in on the murder of John O'Keefe, because there's really nothing out there that we know of, other than maybe FBI research, that would really be able to really hone in on exactly who actually physically is. I'm talking on an evidence level, right? Because we don't really know who. We have our idea, of course, right? But there's more information, there's more dirt on Proctor that's out there to suggest his involvement, such as the Sallyport footage.
It's another daily double for him too. It's another a two-headed monster for him. Number one, yeah, what you just said. I mean, Proctor is the guy who has to, clean up the mess, and so naturally he's the one doing some of the dirty work, literally, if that's the case, and he's going to get in trouble. The other problem he has is that he works under a very nasty thing in the federal statutes called, under color of law, which is just law speak for he's a cop. And that triggers a whole nother set of criminal statutes, official corruption, and you're going to
serious stuff.
Now, look, I mean, obviously, if some of the Alberts were involved in framing Karen Reed, they could be guilty of crimes too, whether it be, a conspiracy to do this, tampering with evidence, all that kind of stuff. But Proctor is committing acts, if he's responsible for this, of official corruption. 18 USC 242, which is the federal criminal statute for violating civil rights. Think Rodney King is a perfect example. I'm not equating this with that, by the way, but what I'm saying is, that's what you get prosecuted in federal court when you intentionally, as a law enforcement officer, violate the civil rights or constitutional rights, of someone. And he clearly appears to have done that. He would have violated her Fourth Amendment rights by possibly illegal searches. Also, if he took her property, if he planted evidence, I mean, all of this would violate all kinds of federal law. Because he's a law enforcement officer, it becomes actually easier to prosecute him in federal court for these kind of crimes than any of the other people. So, and of course, the perjury is fair game for all of them if the evidence supports it.
A couple comments came in. One was about the Fall River accent comment, which I've seen when I went to Bridgewater State College, because I'm a North Shore guy, but Bridgewater State College was a lot of Fall River, New Bedford kids and a lot of South Shore Irish Catholic kids. And I think that's what he's talking about, which is
it's funny. It's funny because, I was talking to other people earlier who are not, they're not from where we're all from. Okay. So, we kind of get the local jargon and culture and various things. And when he said that, the way I interpreted that, now, obviously I'm not from that area, although my grandfather lived in New Bedford or Dartmouth technically for a long time. So I know some of the area pretty well. But when he said that, what did he say? She was like a hottie with a fall or something like that,
with a Fall River accent or something. Yeah.
The way I interpreted that, and I'm giving honest analysis. So if you're from that area, don't shoot me, don't yell at me. I'm not saying I believe in any of this, but I believe what he was implying was that she's low class.
Yeah, she's hood. She's kind of more hood.
He didn't know who she was. And again, that's not the worst of what he said, but how offensive, and you know what? You better pray, dummy, that some of those jurors, although Fall River may not be Norfolk County, people move, people have family, people come from other areas and move around, would be very pissed. And, for her and her family to have to hear that this guy, who ironically appears to be, white trash with a badge, right? For him to be making these disparaging comments about somebody who, it turns out, from what I'm told,
brilliant. She's brilliant, self-made
executive or a professor, all of these other
works
things.
At Fidelity. Come on.
A lot more accomplished and intelligent than you, Proctor.
Exactly.
Right.
So, but obviously there's always the risk anytime you're disparaging a class of people from where they're from.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Whether it be, the Asian lawn next door that they're searching, or whether it be.
Doesn't it seem like there's a lot of that from them? Those Canton Townies like that have been Galberts. It's just like, if you're not us, you're getting made fun of.
Well,
like,
I think Canton is a very clearly protect your own provincial type of thing. And, you can get into all the demographics of it, which probably not a good idea. But I mean, historically, a lot of people move there from other areas, right? Years ago, it's not
white flight, a white Irish flight.
It's not far from places like South Boston, right?
Exactly.
It's right on, where the two major highways merge. That's a logical place to move if you're taken off from other places. And, does some of those views come in place? Maybe.
There's another one comment. They want to know, can Karen Reed possibly sue disclosing her protected health information to people who didn't need to know? There are laws for this, HIPAA laws.
There are laws, and, the cops, or Proctor particularly, he violated it. Look, when you're in law enforcement, you find out things. If there was evidence on her cell phone, which he learned, or through some other source lawfully, that she had a medical condition, that in and of itself is not a HIPAA violation, clearly. But when he starts unlawfully disseminating it for no legitimate law enforcement purpose, he doesn't get protected because I'm a cop with information I'm allowed to know by just telling everyone. So that is, I'm not an expert on, privacy law and that sort of thing. But I mean, that's certainly a thought I had earlier, was this is a major HIPAA violation. He gave it to random people who may have given it to other people. And, spare me he told other cops that they're not protected by that. But he also told his friends who are not cops, that was for no law enforcement purpose. And then who else do they tell? I mean, what, they see an article about this case, they say, oh yeah, that's the woman that has this. And it goes down the chain. And, so her rights have, and of course, everyone watching today heard it, which is just outrageous. Now, I understand what her lawyers did, and I agree with it. It needed to be heard in a courtroom sense to make sure the outrage is properly put on the people who deserve it. But that doesn't make it any less harmful for any individual to have to hear that and be humiliated by a public disclosure in front of your family and friends,
right?
And in front of all these other people who seemingly hate her for no reason because she has the temerity to say I'm not guilty, and not while you're on trial, not sit in your room rocking back and forth crying 24 hours a day, that if you apparently attempt to do anything to try to live a normal life makes you a bad person, as some people seem to think. So the reality is, look, it's some kind of privacy violation. It's not, as somebody's correctly noting, it's not a HIPAA per se, but there are privacy laws, and you aren't allowed to just run around disclosing people's personal medical information because you think it's funny, because you have a badge which enables you to hold sensitive and confidential information. And all this did was prove that Proctor demonstrated he's not qualified for his job. He shouldn't be entitled to hold this type of confidential and sensitive information, because at any opportunity he gets, he disseminates it like it's a freaking joke.
He's like a gossip too, like just
no,
unbelievable.
he's like a child with a badge, which is also frightening.
So it said, why is Proctor? Actually, Gen X chick said, why is only Proctor under internal investigation? The text are proof that the other officers in that thread were unethical.
I don't know that they are or they aren't. It's possible they could be now. I mean, the other guys' conduct is not as offensive, clearly, just by volume and tone. I think anyone would agree what Yuri did, especially because he's a supervisor, is disgusting. But even if he wasn't put under IAB, was he ever demerited? Did he lose any vacation or rank, or was he punished somehow for this? I mean, for failing to supervise. And in fact, not only failing to supervise, but condoning by saying this is funny. So I don't know what's going on, but I mean, it's a crisis in the state police. I mean, these guys are not professionals, clearly.
What do you expect tomorrow?
Well, I think Wednesday, right? Nothing tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I forgot. No court tomorrow. Sorry, everybody. Wednesday.
I think that Jackson
can't get here soon enough.
I mean, he's clearly holding the one text message. We haven't heard it yet about killing herself. We also don't know what else is out there. I mean, you were told in the opening that you expected a couple of these, and instead you heard about 50 or so today. So who knows what else is out there? I expect at some point he's going to get clobbered on the Sally Port and questioned about all of that. You'd expect him to get clobbered about how you found all this glass. I think his methods of investigative behavior will be questioned. Not taking photos until after, not doing this. The Ring video, which his testimony about didn't make much sense to me today, in terms of trying to suggest that he didn't get access to Karen Reed coming home that night, which is right around the time of the library, and only probably establishing, you probably got rid of it. There's no other logical explanation. So everything you've heard about this guy, I think he hasn't been hasn't been crossed about the gifts yet. He hasn't been crossed about the medical examiner contacts yet.
Misspelling all the names in the reports, maybe.
Yeah, I just think it's going to go on and on, and
all day probably, huh?
it's so surprising to me because I truly believed that he would have taken the fifth, which would have, in some level hurt the DA. But what's better, this or the fifth for them? My God,
At this point, fifth would have been better.
clearly, and certainly for Proctor personally, and I mean, he can't hide behind the fifth at this point, so it's all going to come out, and he'll just have to say whatever he says. And to me, what I'm curious is there any more video from the Sally Port? I mean, do they have something which would show something more? I mean, I think some people thought today you might have seen some of that. Not that it wasn't effective, but it wasn't the
What we were hoping.
bombshell that a lot of people thought might have been. But who knows? Maybe that's coming later.
There's a question about the jurors. Are the jurors allowed to talk to each other now about what is going on, or do they have to wait until the end of the trial? They have to wait, right?
And by the way, that's an interesting question for another reason. If ever they're going to be put to the test,
You'll be now.
To talk about this case amongst themselves. I mean, these people see each other in the hallway or even around town. How do they not say, what the hell is going on? And how disgusting is that guy? But no, they can't. But that's hard. How do they not look at each other, even when they're just all sitting there waiting to come out? And
they're just shaking their heads, probably.
I mean, what do you do? Like, so, seen any good movies lately? I mean, it's kind of hard, I think, not.
How about those Celtics?
Oh my God.
That's probably what they'll say, right?
Great last night.
How do the Bucks feel about Drew Holiday not being on their team anymore?
Throwing up. They've got to be throwing up in their mouth. Drew Holiday was unbelievable. The crowd they got to Kyrie Irving again last night. Just incredible. The defense was amazing. That block by Derek White and Jaylen Brown was right in front of me last night. That was incredible. I think I'm hoping that was the last.
Where were you sitting? Or will you blow up your spot?
Kind of behind the basket where Dallas was shooting in the second half, but a little ways up there. Sometimes in the past, I've worked good angles with clients and whatnot who've hooked me up. This one wasn't as much that. So when it's less coming from other people, the seats tend to get higher.
Those tickets are pricey too. I mean,
a little cheap. You're not spending all your money on tickets. Then you're a little reasonable.
I mean, a couple of years ago, I had a client who was heavily involved with the NBA, like heavily, and would get opening night floor seats and really good seats at other cities and great stuff. That not this time though.
Excellent.
This time with the cheap seats.
Are you going to see any other games if there are more in Boston?
I don't think so. I think we went to quite a few this year. I think we're tapped out, but there may be no more home games if
right. Depends if they how far they go, right?
So no, but I think either way, unless I was in town at the right time and just things worked out, I think we're TV for the rest of the season.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Give the wallet a rest. Yeah. Ticket prices are insane right now. If those lower sections are like $16,000 and up.
Yeah. Growing up, we used to go to like a lot of the finals games. We had tickets, and I hadn't been to a Celtics final game, probably, I'm guessing, since like 87. So it was a long time. I went to a finals game in Phoenix, actually in the 90s, where Michael Jordan won his
93
first three. In 93, I went to Game 6 in Phoenix, where I was.
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah, that was
an amazing game.
That was That was actually a championship winning game. That was
Paxton. The Paxton game.
Paxton shot. That was exactly. Yep.
I remember watching that live when I was a kid. Yep. Yep. Remember that well. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a fun trip.
Now you are on Melanie Little's show today as well. How did that go?
It was fun. Yeah. I had the time today because I was driving home and wasn't going to really do that much between just being tired and doing stuff around the house. So we watched a little bit today, and it was just a gift because it turned out to be Proctor, which it was kind of surprising. That's not what I expected for a lot of reasons. I didn't think he'd ever testify, and I didn't think he'd be put him up right after the one guy said that the taillight was not destroyed and it wasn't shattered. But
there was like three great witnesses in a row for the defense.
I don't know why they even called that the Dighton guy. if anything, if they were aware of them, I think it would have been exculpatory. They would have been obligated to notify the defense. But that's one I probably would have let the defense call. I don't know. And, just for what it's worth, maybe another lesson to those who live in yellow houses again. When you assume that there's no cross-examination of a witness, that means that the defense is waving the white flag because it's so compelling and you're screwed. It doesn't necessarily mean that. For example, the Dighton officer today didn't get cross-examined because there was
gave them what they want. Yeah.
Nothing.
Like, why screw it up? You got this. It's like when you get the sale. I used to watch these people. They get yes on the sale and they keep talking and they talk the customer out of it after they say yes. It's like, shut up, you got the sale. So it's the same thing. It's like you got the deal. Shut up. You don't need to say anything else.
It's a judgment call. They could have asked him if they wanted a few questions to kind of like drill down on, tell us what you saw. But on the other hand, it wasn't worth it because, what is he going to say? Maybe he says, I don't remember or whatever. And you make a decision. You know what? We got what we need. This is not what they're describing and it doesn't fit with what they're claiming. So let it go. And that's not a reason to believe that the defense waved the white flag, that they were afraid what would happen. Quite the contrary.
Now you're also going on, so what is it? Surviving the Survivor tonight at 7. If people want to watch that as well, right? I think there's 3 attorneys on there. You're gonna have some good attorneys. Who you on there with tonight?
Boy, I do, and this is terrible, but I can't. I'll tell you in a second. I forgot. Boy.
I think one of them's from that Bites channel, some Legal Bites.
Hey, maybe there's a chance Wendy Murphy's on the show, Mark.
No,
right?
no Wendy Murphy.
Oh, by the way, has she chimed in with any opinions about?
We're all blocked. So
I'm blocked. I'm blocked.
I gotta say too, people don't know who Yellow Cottage. A lot of people in the comments are asking who's not a few, because there's a lot of new people. He's a clown show. He's got his own show. He's a joke. You don't even want to know. So if you don't know who Yellow Cottage Tales is, be happy. Just enjoy it. You don't really need to know.
There's a saying: people who live in yellow houses, usually fail.
I mean, do you want to comment on Mark? He went after you, which was the hilarious. You had the best response ever, because then he tried to get you like he always does. He tries to get us on his shows. You're the number one traffic generator on this topic. He insults you and then invites you on your show.
Right. I told him I think something along the lines of I wouldn't be caught dead talking to you for 5 seconds and by demeaning myself and basically enhancing your own intellectual, your own just. You're not worth my time. It's on Twitter somewhere. No, he disagrees, which is fine, and somehow it turns into these really wild attacks about ambulance chasing, law degrees from nowhere, moron. I mean, the guy is
unhinged.
It's just bizarre, and I disagree. That's fine, and then he. The crazy thing is some of these responses have got to take 2 hours to write. I mean, some people have that Twitter exception where you could just write and write, and it's just long and long, and he just keeps going and going and screaming and yelling. And somebody said, this is what will happen. He'll invite you on to, increase his numbers. And of course I had no interest in doing that. And besides, I had done a little research on him, and I saw that he was the guy who was watching the video of the left taillight saying, aha, there's the broken taillight. It's not even the right taillight, as it turned out. And then the next day,
fail.
The next day he was talking to that kind of wacky former radio host from Rhode Island, whoever he is.
John DePietro.
Who also he had previously posted like attacking the defense as, look at these idiots. They put in this backwards video. And of course the prosecution did. And I said, I'm getting attacked online by the one lunatic who thinks that the defense put in this video that's wrong, who's talking to the other one who's running up and down, getting excited because the wrong taillight apparently shows the damage that doesn't exist on that taillight. And this is what I'm dealing with.
They are both definitely are renting or either renting or bought real estate in windy world too. I mean, they're totally windy world people. John DePietro especially.
Well, they're just Wendy without the law degree. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
yeah.
really,
So
They're
yeah.
friends with her too. Like that DePietro guy is close to Windy,
oh boy.
Oh,
Wendy,
there you
whatever.
go. There you
Yeah.
go.
So, yep.
Yesterday, Kevin, he called me. So the Glare wrote a post promoting his appearance on the Young Jerks last evening with me and Turtle Boy. And all of a sudden I see a comment from Kevin. He goes, or Plevin, lightweights of the round table. And I wrote back, look at you, Kevin, all bitter inside and lowering yourself to petty insults. It was just like, dude, really? Like he's just throwing insults left and right. And I think you or somebody else jumped in and just said, like, man, you're so jealous right now because your viewership's down to like 10 people. It's like, bro, just
Oh, hey,
It's the
listen,
truth. It's the
I was at
truth.
the garden last night. I wasn't, I
Yeah.
wasn't aware of that. But look,
Yeah.
it's kind of sad because, and I can't believe they put people like this and give
Yeah.
them a forum and a platform on Court TV.
Court
It's
TV.
shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And they
really
played his video. They played his video
Yeah.
that was like
On the
everything
wrong,
about it was
the
wrong.
bumper on the wrong side. I think it's because they don't have anyone else. Like there's
No.
it's
people are
embarrassing.
so insane on that other side. There's really not
Yeah.
much there to like who else you gonna have represent the crazy side.
On
I don't
Court
know.
TV is this guy with a video here that he made with like a Sims video, and he's going to play that for us now. It's like, can you guys, Court TV, can you at least like go out and pay somebody to animate a video for like $15? Because I mean, a ninth grader on a computer in class could have, put together something high quality at least, compared to that. But that was the cocktail glass was about the size of a 2-liter bottle of Coke.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Someone said creator disputes are the R word. We don't even have disputes with them. We just laugh. I mean, I'm at this point, I just laugh at Kevin. I mean, do you really care? Like, is this? We don't care.
No, I my thing is, look, I have opinions with a little bit of informed experience and intelligence because this is what I do. So, it's just kind of in my wheelhouse, and some of those opinions can be strong. And this case is one that right away for me was an easy one, but a strong one. I think there's a real injustice going on here, and if that triggers people, by all means disagree. There's no reason, but when it turns into you are a moron with, you must be chasing ambulances. I look at this guy, you just have to laugh.
Yeah, his biggest job was bartender. I mean, nothing against bartending. I
No,
love
no, I
service.
don't.
I was a bartender waiter.
That's
But
why my
that's
response
his
was,
issue. Like he sits there and goes after someone like you who's intelligent, obviously very accomplished. It just looks really whack. It's like,
all
dude, what are you
I
doing?
asked was yesterday, somebody please screenshot these so that they don't disappear. So when all is said and done,
We got him.
we
We
can
got
have
him.
a reevaluation of some of these gems for a little fun. But
Yeah.
beyond
we
that,
have them all. We have them all.
I don't understand the nastiness that over.
Yeah. There's no need. There's no need to
disagreement
call people
over
names.
whether a witness is going to testify or not. I'm not sure how that turns into some, 8,000 word essay on what a moron you are and this and that and da 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 da. It's bizarre.
It looks really weak. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it is. Desperate. It's true. His viewership is way down. I think one of the reasons too is our numbers have gone through the roof. We've been talking about it recently, and he sees that. He's upset. He sees that we were both at one point very equal, and he went the other way. He got all nasty and he went crazy, and now he wants to blame everyone else for it.
Credit. I mean, if you act like that, all you're doing is showing everyone that you're, a little unhinged and just damaging your own credibility. And
Throwing out insults. I mean, it was like I said that right away. I'm like, you're just throwing out petty insults now because you're bitter, you're upset. It's like, I never really try to insult people like that back. I'm just like, listen, look at yourself right now. You're going after the Glare. I love the Glare.
Yeah,
I love you
awesome.
guys. I love Turtle Boy. I love everybody here. I'm like, just stop with these petty insults, lightweights of the round table. Like, I wasn't insulted by it, but it's just like, I just had to shine the light on the fact that, look, you're just issuing petty insults. When you insult like that, it means your argument about what you're trying to say is absolutely just lost, and now you're just going with insults. Now it's that's all it is.
And nobody's supporting it. Like I don't
No.
think one person liked that comment. Actually, I saw that one. It was
Yeah.
like, dude, you couldn't even get one like on that one.
It's just so over the top. I mean, it's so disproportional in its tone that I'm sorry, but it just makes you wonder whether
Is he
someone's
okay? Yeah.
unhinged or just really miserable. I hate to say it.
That's what I think. He's
I
miserable.
mean,
I
to
think that's it.
lash out like that over people you don't know who just have a different view, who, maybe right or wrong, but just have a view, it strikes me as crazy. I mean, it's just so disproportionate in its tone and response. And apparently he's done it to many, many people and does it
Oh
all
yeah.
the time, which just tells
He
you
said so many lies about so many
there's
people,
something
myself
deeper
included. You have to go pretty soon to your
Yeah.
other show. So
Yeah.
yeah, what's your final like wrap up tonight? Like, what do you want to leave us with? Because
I,
there's a lot today. What do you think?
I think, I mean, I always thought Proctor was going to be a problem. So much so that he would never testify. I truly believe that. It was wrong, clearly, although I think analytically, I think I was right. It was a mistake, but whatever. He's in the soup now. But as bad as you thought he was, I didn't think it could be this bad. I mean, who knew it was this bad? And once again, the DA played entirely into the masterful strategic hands of the defense. There's all this back and forth. Is this guy going to testify? Is he not? We talked about this. They could at least make the defense call him. Now he's a direct instead of a cross, at least potentially. But is the DA too scared because if they don't call him, they're afraid of this? What if he takes the fifth? And the defense waited it out and they got exactly what they wanted. Let the prosecution call him. You get to cross-examine him. And now you can really wow the jury with more than you told them there was. And they over delivered, which is perfect. And they had incredible discipline to hold this, because they could have used a lot of this with other people and they didn't. And they waited and waited, and they've done this before. And it's a real sign of real discipline, playing the long game. And I think they're doing it masterfully. And I mean, I thought this case was over before the trial started. They never should have done it, as you know. I've told you 10 other times. I thought that, okay, we finally crossed the line. It's over. But of all the bad days that they've had, which are, if there have been how many trial days? 22?
Something like that.
Okay.
It's
So
20
of,
something.
okay. So of 22 out of 22 bad trial days that they've had, this one is next level. I mean, it's across the board between the witnesses who testified before Proctor and then Proctor being in the middle of cross, and all the jury's thinking about for 36 hours or whatever it is this. And there's a whole lot more coming. And this is the main witness. There's just, I mean, who's left? The medical examiner, who has been compromised because of these
Yes.
knucklehead state police
Yeah.
officers.
What a time to bring her up now, right?
Right. So to
You
me,
set that up great.
they have no chance. I don't understand how somebody who's an adult, who's a shot caller in that office, whether it's Morrissey or somebody who's able to convince him, comes in and just says, you need to pull the plug on this. They've got to pull the plug. It's not right to even subject Karen Reed to another day of having to listen to this and have more of this come out. And it doesn't matter whether they think she's guilty. They're never going to prove it. Most people at this point, I think, believe she's not guilty. The more that the frame evidence comes out, I think the more clear it becomes that she's actually innocent. And I think more people believe that than believed it yesterday and the day before. But it's becoming a real thing when you see all of this Sally Port stuff and how disgusting these state police officers are. And I think it's a shame that this trial may last, another couple of weeks. It never should have happened. And the best they can do is minimize the damage. They ought to end it tomorrow. And if Morrissey had dignity, he would. I don't expect he will.
I wish you would. Looks like some guy with cancer sent you Wendy's X comment. So you're gonna get some
great.
It gets that's hooking you up, Mark.
That'll be good reading material for on the way to work tomorrow.
Forward it to Mazza and I too, so we get to
yeah, we'll take a look at that. Yeah.
I'm sure that's going to get forwarded to everyone. Or is it going to be defending Proctor as the advocate of, anti misogyny? Is there which is more?
I know, right?
Her hatred for Karen Reed and Yannetti versus Proctor being the worst of the worst law enforcement misogynist imaginable.
She's
Who
a
knows?
defender of women who overlooks
She
it
wanted
a
to see,
lot. Women
yeah,
and
she wants to
children
see
that she
Karen get
overlooks.
raped. It's like, you know,
Yeah.
that's the most disgusting comment. You know, that's all these
My
people have is
guess is
disgusting comment.
my guess is you'll get a kind of really wet noodle type of, well, he shouldn't have done that, but it doesn't matter. As he said, it doesn't affect the case.
She's guilty.
Right. So who
She
cares?
deserved it. I wonder if she'll say she deserved it. Maybe, you know.
I hope not, but you don't
Yeah.
know. You'll never know.
Wendy is something out there.
Yeah.
So people asking what time is Surviving the Survivor with Mark? It's going to be right at 7 p.m.
Yeah, 7
10 minutes
o'clock.
from now.
I should probably jump off, get something to
Yes.
eat real fast. And
Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here, Mark. Attorney
All right.
Bederow.
to you
Check him
guys.
out, Bederow Law, and you can watch him tonight, Surviving the Survivor at 7. Thank you so much, Mark.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.
And Mazza, you're still here, right?
I'm still here. Yeah, I'm still
Well-
here. I got about 10 minutes till Caitlin Clark plays in Connecticut, so I'm not going to the game tonight like I did a month ago. But
You're that big of a fan. You watch your games, huh?
well, I watch Caitlin Clark, and then I watch the Celtics. I watch when the Olympics start. I'll be watching the USA basketball games every single time
Wow.
I get a chance. So
You're into the hoops.
Oh, I'm into the hoops, that's for sure. Big basketball fan, big movie fan. Those are kind of two
Did
of
you
my
play
big-
basketball in high school
I
and all
did.
that?
I played in high school. I played in college as well.
What position?
Power forward and center.
Oh boy, you're
Oh,
a
yeah.
big man.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I got cut from the JV team,
Oh,
so
did
that's
you?
why I ended up wrestling. Thank God
I
I
got-
got cut. I would have been a terrible basketball player on the bench.
I got cut in middle school in 7th grade. It was mostly like the middle school team back then was more like an 8th grade team with like a few
Sure.
select 7th graders. And then I
Yeah.
just came back the next year, trained so hard. I never got cut from a team again I tried out for in my life after.
Oh,
of course, I never,
It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking to ever get
It
cut
is,
from a
yeah.
team. It's like I
A
think
lot
the
of
only
kids never
time it ever
came back.
happened to me. Yeah.
A lot of kids never came back the next year, but I busted. I trained so hard every single year of my life to just get better and better. So the thing that bothers me the most about basketball nowadays is that I'm actually learning things more now than I was back then because I go on YouTube and watch all this stuff, and I'm literally practicing ball handling skills. And I'm like, geez, I'm doing things I wasn't even doing when I played in college. For goodness sakes, it's just nuts. It's
That's what's so great about YouTube. You can learn
Yeah.
anything there.
Oh, it's nuts. I'm
I love
all
it.
kinds of drills. If I had that stuff 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever, I
Definitely.
would have been able to exploit that and train myself up even more. It's just, yeah.
YouTube is a game changer. Like anytime I need to fix something in the house, or
Yeah.
you know, even when I have a smoke detector issue, I just ask the
Right.
people in the show.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Were you part of that? Did you see what was going on with the smoke detector thing?
No, I didn't know what happened.
I had the smoke detector in the other, it's in like a utility room down here.
Mhm.
And I didn't register on my system, so I didn't think anyone could hear it. But it did bug me, honestly. It was going on for weeks
Oh,
because
geez.
it's plugged in. It had like, hard wiring. So I didn't
Mhm.
think it had a backup battery or anything. I couldn't figure it out. And someone said, we hear it, just pull the friggin' thing out. It doesn't matter. You can pull it out. And so that's what I did. And I got rid of it. Like,
Oh, geez.
I gotta, put a new one in for now. But
Yeah.
hey, they help me out. This audience helps me out. They tell me how to fix the smoke detector. They're like,
Yeah,
I
that's
can't believe you
awesome.
didn't know that. How dumb are you? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty dumb sometimes.
Right. That happens. You can't, the problem with life is you can't know everything. So
No,
there's
you
always
can't.
like, everyone always has like those 3 or 4 things that most people perceive to be more commonsensical that
Right.
sometimes you just don't know. Like, it's just the way life is. You can't know everything in life and
I'm not a
specialize.
handyman. That's
Yeah.
basically what it comes down to. If you want to spar or something, or
Yeah.
or talk
Yeah.
about philosophy or logic, I'm there. But if you
Yeah.
want me to fix your car, it's I've
Right.
done it, but I'm not good at it.
Right.
So
Speaking of sparring, I got to do martial arts tomorrow because there's no, I got no Celtics and there's no case tomorrow. So I'll do my martial arts class tomorrow. That opens me up till at least up till 8 o'clock on Wednesday for the show, for the day Wednesday court case. So it looks like that will be my plan for the week. But yeah, martial arts is great. I love it. I was telling Blair about it yesterday. It's good stuff.
there is a reset button. Someone said I tried the reset button, obviously,
Oh,
but that
yeah.
didn't work. I think it actually just needs a new battery. I really do.
Right.
And I
That's
couldn't
usually
figure
what
out
it
that it
is.
had a battery because it was plugged in. I didn't think that it's
Oh,
weird. So funny.
right.
They
Yeah,
taught
usually that's
me.
what it is. The battery. Like sometimes mine dies out and you start here going,
Yeah.
what the heck's going on? Let me
See, we
pull this
got all
thing
these
out.
other ones that aren't plugged in with the battery, so I know how to
Yeah.
do those. But this one's a different one. It's
Right.
hardwired. So, but let's give final thoughts tonight. We're
Sure.
chitter chattering on
Yeah, no.
What
Final thoughts was I thought the morning was, like I said, Auntie Bev was outrageous this morning. I thought a little bit more was going to come from the Yuri cross examination today. Maybe I was a little bit more hyped up for that, but some things happened, but it, wasn't as notable, I didn't think, as I thought it was going to be. But the big thing of the day that I think that flew under the radar in comparison to Michael Proctor's cross examination was this officer Nicholas Barros from the Dighton Police Department, and the fact that there was no cross examination, but when he spoke with Lally, he mentioned that the taillight cracked and that it wasn't shattered or smashed, for example, and that was very damning to the prosecution for sure. So I thought that was extremely notable today, and it's just amazing how you have someone that's kind of a basically, I would call him a simple witness, which basically he had limited involvement, but he noticed something that was basically, and you mentioned this weeks ago, any smaller witnesses in terms of their smaller in terms of their involvement with anything, whether for or against or involved or not, that would have more explosive testimony in very subtle ways. And I thought that he was another person that kind of can be categorized. If someone just went up and said, "Hey, yeah, it was cracked and it wasn't shattered," and it's just from a jury perspective, you got Proctor up there holding. Um, tail out like he shattered a bunch of candy canes or something like that. It's ridiculous that I don't think the jury's going to buy it, because that video of the flip footage was basically the end game right there, where basically, yeah, okay, you found all this tail light. Why didn't you find it at the scene? And then, furthermore, why why is it that you found all this taillight days later? And then additionally, there's clearly you guys were hanging out in the rear right side of that SUV. So there is that. So there's just so much here that's, and me and Sean were talking last night. I did my show before I hopped on yours, and we went over that. And I said to Sean, I go, you've been one of the biggest, most animated speakers of the taillight. And how do you feel now that this footage comes out and essentially validates exactly, because that Sally port really is the absolute core of the cover up. I mean, the basis for it was that there was shattered taillight. The taillight had to be shattered somewhere. It was shattered in Sally port, and you have that footage. And I talked about this yesterday. If they had backed in that SUV, then it would have been both sides of the taillight would have been visible to the camera. And then Sean said to me, he goes, maybe that's where that snow came from around that vehicle. Maybe they backed the thing in originally, looked at the cameras, realized that, drove it out, drove it back
that
in.
makes so much
It
sense. Think
does.
about that.
Yeah.
Especially when you back in and you stop, that's when the snow comes
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So
Sean
it
said
makes
that.
so much sense.
And it
And this,
floored me. I'm like, that's right, because I go, they must have done that, because the if they probably normally they would have backed it in, and then they probably said, well, the taillight's visible on both sides, and then when you flip it, if you were going to hide the right taillight, all three, if you stood near all three visible taillights that are on the camera side, the only one that's not visible is the rear taillight. That's the only one that's hidden by the camera, and that and all the other missing footage. But Sean said that, and I said, yeah, that explains the snow. You know what's interesting? I was going to say this to Sean, but we ran out of time. If you look at the side of the vehicle, it's visible to the camera. So the windshield, the lower left part of the windshield, there's snow still left covering that part of the windshield. When the image is flipped, it makes it hard to determine if there's a steering wheel back there, because that's the steering wheel. So from the normal view, the steering wheel side has snow over it. So if you flip the image, the passenger side has snow covering that steering wheel on the right side from the inverted viewpoint. So basically, like if, for example, if you were to look at that footage, you can't see the steering wheel because it's covered by that light glaze of snow. So I thought that was something very interesting that I noticed as well. But when you flip it, you see it's really the driver's side. But that was extremely interesting. So just to wrap it up, I'm interested in this case continuing on. I I'm ready for more explosive stuff. I think this Proctor cross examination is going to be. I think they're just covering the basics right now with the text messages, but there is so much more to come with that cross examination. If there's significant amounts of time spent on this on Wednesday, I am not going to be shocked at all, Mike. And that's where I'll leave it.
awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Mazza Media.
You're
Good
welcome.
luck tonight with are you going to karate tonight too?
Nope, tomorrow night and tonight just stay in, and I am probably gonna make some buffalo wings in a few minutes. I haven't had dinner yet. I'm
Oh
thinking
man, you
wings
get me
again.
hungry.
So
Get me hungry. I love the buffalo wings. You're always on those.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's great to have an early night, isn't it? Like
Oh, it
sometimes
is.
we've had some late nights with Mark, and this is great to be done at 7,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Right, exactly. Sometimes I don't mind the late nights when I have more studying to do, but then sometimes it's good. I was in work late, so I had some stuff. Me and my boss had to go over some stuff, and I had to talk to him, and I'm like, I got to go over this before I leave for the day, and then we did, and then we're like, okay, I go, I'm gonna roll, and then I go, let me jump on the Young Jerks finally. So I knew Mark had a pretty big rant ready to go so I'm like, if I'm not there for like the first 20, 30 minutes, Mr. Bederow's got this thing covered. So,
Oh yeah, totally, totally.
no. All right. Oh, I crossed 5,000 subs on X, and I'm closing in on 3,000 subs on YouTube. So just thank you to anybody that's following me on either platform. That was really awesome. I was shocked by these. Not that I'm about the
New
numbers, but
followers.
I'm floored by people enjoying my contributions to freeing Karen Reed and to this show. And everyone keeps saying, "Show your face." Once I show my face, what will happen is they'll run. What's it called? Their facial recognition software. They'll find out who I am, where I live. Then the crank calls will start coming in, and pizza deliveries will start coming in, and then yeah. So that's when it's like, yeah,
There's
you
a
want to reveal your.
benefit. There's a benefit
Yeah,
not to revealing yourself. There's no
yeah,
doubt
there
about
is.
it.
Yeah,
I mean, I've
there
been
is.
through it. I've been through it.
Right. Exactly. It's like I'm just a voice, but I showed my face to everybody that met me in person outside the court. Now, I will say this: I do plan on being at that court again by the end of the month, and I'll let you guys know when I do figure that out. But I will say I will be back there again this month by the end of the month. So I'll see everybody again soon.
Excellent.
Yeah.
There's a comment here for you, actually. I think you
Oh,
just address it, maybe. Mazza's thought on JO picture with no snow. John
the
O'Keefe picture.
John O'Keefe picture with no snow. Was that something that came out today and maybe I missed it? Is
Yeah,
that
I'm not sure. Maybe she's
yeah.
talking about the way the body was. I'm
Oh, the
not sure.
body. Yeah.
I mean, a warm body would
I wonder if Reality Check's
melt
still here
snow.
and if she could just finesse that question just a little bit more. I apologize, Reality Check, for not comprehending the with the moment that picture was revealed, but I'm not sure what the I wouldn't be able to give an answer on that. I apologize just yet, at least.
I want to thank you for being here tonight, Mazza.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it. Thank you all, and free Karen Reed. Go Caitlin Clark. Go Celtics. And oh, she says the car. Um, Not sure if I saw that one either. Somebody can send that to me.
Is she talking about the picture? I've seen the picture. The picture, it's funny how clear that picture was. But yeah, there was no snow on it.
No snow,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, who knows? They probably cleaned it off. I don't know. The Traverse.
Oh, his vehicle.
Yeah, the
Yes,
Traverse they're
yes,
talking
yes,
about.
yes. Now I know what yeah, the SUV. Yeah, they showed it in the parking lot, right? And then it had no
Yeah.
snow, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was interesting that
I
there was
think
no
they
snow.
probably cleaned it off so they could take a picture. I don't know.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
they brought in some state police plow
Right.
drivers or whatever. It's a good question, actually. We don't know,
Right.
though. But
Right.
we
Yeah.
got you a new sub tonight at
Oh,
Mazza
thank you.
Media. So I would like anyone who's following tonight, we post the links. Definitely follow Mazza Media on YouTube and on X as well.
Thank you, Mike.
And thank you so much for being here tonight, Mazza.
You're welcome. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you, Mike, again. I appreciate it, sir. Have a good evening.
You too.
All right.
Good night. We'll talk soon. It's Mazza Media. We had Mark Bederow, attorney Mark Bederow, on the show tonight. Another great night. Great night last night with Turtle Boy and the Glera and Mazza Media and Rita Lombardi. Tomorrow night, Tuesday night, we're going to be airing the Canton Select Board. It should be good at 7 p.m. There's a chance I may air something in the morning that is related to the Sandra Birchmore case. Police officer involved. He's going to have a hearing. We're going to try to air that tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. maybe. If we can get that up, we're going to try. So I hope you check that out tomorrow morning because there'll be no court. This will be something else that will be kind of exciting in the morning. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. though, Canton Select Board. I hope you're there. I want to thank everyone who's been subscribing, becoming members, joining up. There's a new comment from Pink Nasty. She said $5. She said, just found your channel and love it. Does Bev have a boss or anyone to answer for her behavior? Oh my God, that was a question I forgot to ask tonight. Whether people should try to file sanctions against her, because that is coming up. People are asking about that. I'll ask Bederow next time he's on the show about that. I don't think she does have a boss. I don't know if judges actually have any sort of oversight or supervision. I don't know. We should find that out. Great question, Pink Nasty. I don't know. Well, we'll ask Bederow next time he's on the show. I'm not sure he knows either because, he is in New York. It's not quite the same in every state. So, but he might have a general idea. Comment came in earlier. What does Brian Albert have on these people? That's a good question. Is that why? I mean, I don't understand why they're doing this. This is a good comment too from Reality Check. Said once is a mistake, repeatedly it's his character. And you know what else? It's his character that, like Attorney Bederow said, there was no remorse. There was no real apology to Karen Reed today. It was, well, she deserved it because she's guilty. So that is Michael Proctor's character. There's no doubt about it. Today we saw who Michael Proctor is and what his character is and what is Yuri Buchanek and all these other clowns at the state police, what their character is. They're not good people. I mean, a lot of the comments too, like I can almost excuse it if you're a 17, 18-year-old guy, you're a young kid talking to your friends. It's a little different. When you're a state police officer talking to other state police professionals, like that is just, it's shocking. And then you get on the stand and you blame it on the person that you did it to. Oh, it was okay because I felt like she was guilty. It's okay because I felt like she had a short skirt on. She had a low cut top. I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. It's like that old misogynist thing. Like she deserved it. And I think when you have a jury of women, majority women, and from what I hear, they're older folks too, which means they may be caring for an elderly parent, like we did for a while in my family, or they may be, suffering some of these medical conditions themselves. As you get older, you experience medical issues. It's very common. Even myself, I've had a number of medical issues. I had them when I was younger, actually. So, for me, and I think a lot of people that have medical issues, you hear that kind of callous, just disregard. It's like, dude, I guess you needed to have something bad happen to you in your life to humble you, huh, Michael Proctor? Well, this is it. Hopefully you actually get some humanity now, Michael Proctor. When you suffer. Now you know how other people feel, Michael Proctor. Michael Proctor is going to be in for his kids too, his whole family, his whole reputation. I don't know how he continues on. I don't know how they continue on with the state police like this. Nick Mark's right. This is going to be a stain. I can't imagine what the Boston Herald's going to be covering tomorrow. The news media. Going to check out all the TV media tonight and see what they're saying. I heard Michael Proctor on WBZ radio driving back here to do the show tonight. I get another super chat. There we go. This is the problem with law enforcement having immunity. Absolutely. We should probably consider looking at that again too. Because that was part of police reform in Massachusetts with the Post Commission. That was something they axed. The police unions did not want to get rid of that immunity for police officers. And I think it may be time to look at that. To really look at it. All right, got a couple of Venmos came in. Tara sent $10. She said, I think Lally has Asperger's. No matter what the topic, he talks like he's talking about the weather. Maybe. I mean, maybe that could explain it. If there was ever a time for that woman, assistant district attorney prosecutor there to step up, today would have been the day for her. She could have been the sympathetic one and been like, you know what? What she did was disgusting. Like, she could have called him out. If Lally doesn't have that kind of emotional gravitas, maybe she should have done it. Rebecca sent $5 on Venmo. She says, free Karen Reed, FKR. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Also got a contribution from TD. TD says, what could Plevin possibly have to say now? Plevin, for people who don't know, the new folks, that is Kevin from Yellow Cottage Tale. He picked up the nickname Plevin along the way. TD goes on to say, he, in this case, are a dumpster fire. Mark Bederow is a genius. Thank you so much, TD. Also, Judith sent 25. Big contribution. Thank you so much, Judith. She says, thank you for standing for justice. 5 stars. Thank you so much, Judith. And a couple came in late last night. Kathy, a friend of mine, now like a neighbor, we say. She said, great show tonight, Mike. Nahat's #1 young jerk supporter. So she's over in Nahat. She's a big young jerk supporter. Thank you so much for the contribution last night, Kathy. William also sent $25 last night. He said, good information. Thanks. Free Karen Reed. A lot of you on the replay still send donations. I love the replay, folks. After the show's over, all of a sudden I hear a ding ding, and I'm like, oh, look, people are still listening. Jody sent $10 last night, too. She said, great show. And not sure if I got Ruby in last night, but she said, you guys are the dream team. She sent $4.99 last night. Thank you so much. And Erica Madden, again, I got to thank her. She sent $100 the other night. She's the owner of the Star Drive-In. They're going to do a big benefit for Free Karen Reed. They're doing a fundraiser over there. Check it out. Just Google it. Star Drive-In. I believe it's Taunton, Massachusetts. They do good things. It looks like a really fun place, too. If I lived closer, I'd probably be there every weekend. Erica Madden, thank you so much for always being generous with us. She sent us quite a few donations. She's awesome. I love Erica Madden. She's another one. She always, after she closes the Star Drive-In at night, she listens to the Young Jerks on replay. All right. I think I got all the super chats up tonight. There was 79 of them. I do my best. If I miss some, I'm sorry. I really try to get them all up there. Someone last night was complaining that I don't leave them up there long enough. I try. I want to thank the new members for joining tonight. I want to thank, we had someone, who was it tonight? There was someone again who donated memberships tonight. I love seeing that when people buy memberships for other people. That's so cool. I'm looking for it. I can't find it now, of course. I want to thank you though for doing that. Whoever you are on the list here, there's so many of them. I'm looking for you. But I just want to thank everyone who's been supporting and kicking in and throwing in the questions and joining, and it's almost overwhelming. I love it. Thank you so much, though. Paula B gifted 5 Young Jerks memberships. Thank you so much, Paula B. I'm just checking out a couple last comments. Anyone have? Oh, another super chat. Cheryl sent $9.99. She says, love you, Bederow and Mazza. Watch Mark and Melanie today. So many great panels. Mazza, I know. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cheryl, for making that donation. Thank you so much. Very appreciated. Peggy says, Proctor got enraged, just like Jen McCabe at the lawyers. I know. It's so similar, isn't it? I also want to thank our awesome moderators, Stephanie and Jen and MJ. Stephanie and MJ have been killing it. Thank you so much. Thank you for posting all the links you'll find. We do pin links. Sometimes it's the merchandise that you can buy, Young Jerks memberships also. And sometimes it's our Cash Apps. And sometimes we post and link at the top of the chat, different fundraisers. If you can, make a donation to Free Karen Reed. It's freekarenreed.net. I would love to see some more donations. I want to thank you all for helping us get to 350,000 on that. But that's another place I would love to see more donations going to. freekarenreed.net. She needs money for her defense. It's very expensive. And Stephanie, thank you so much. Marjorie says, what a great channel. Glad I found you. Thank you so much, Marjorie. Glad we found you too. Here's another comment. Crime Times says, I think the reason Karen is being framed is because the people involved had done dodgy things with their law enforcement privilege, and whoever actually killed J.O. is higher ranking and threatened to make life hell. I mean, possibly. I mean, that's what a lot of this seems like. It's like the payback crew. They all have something on each other. It's like the USA versus Russia. You know, they got so many nukes on either side, no one's going to make a move. You know, I feel like it's like a lot like that. You kind of just have to go along because once you're in, you're in. But who knows? Well, I mean, it could just be this little tight crew here. But whatever it isn't good, and we got a good taste of it. We'll see everyone Wednesday morning to see more of it. Definitely, I can't wait to see Proctor and the Cross on Wednesday morning. And again, tomorrow night we're going to be airing the Canton Select Board meeting. It should be a big meeting at 7 p.m. because Chief Rafferty, who may be in that Sallyport video, who definitely has a lot of questions about her. She seems to be the one that had Canton Community Television remove the Higgins retirement speech for Berkowitz. Her contract is up, the Canton Police Chief, Helena Rafferty, and a lot of the citizens want them not to renew that contract. So I think tomorrow night, the Canton Select Board, there might be some fireworks at 7 p.m. So make sure you follow us and subscribe to us if you haven't. We'll be airing that tomorrow at 7 p.m. And I may try to air something in the morning at 9:30 a.m. too, as well, about one of the Stoughton police officers that did some really bad stuff to a teenage girl who ended up growing up in her early 20s, and something really bad happened to her. We still don't know what. Her name's Sandra Birchmore. So hopefully tomorrow morning, I'm going to try to air something about one of those police officers as well. 9:30 a.m. Check us out in the morning if you have some time. If I can get it up. I can't make any promises. I always do my best. So thank you, everybody who's been supporting us. We had over 80 super chats again tonight. It's amazing. Free Karen Reed. We'll see you definitely Wednesday morning, Tuesday night, Canton Select Board. Thank you so much, everyone. Keep up the fight. And you know what? If you've been supporting this like we have, even recently, but especially the long-term OGs who have been doing it for over a year, keep your head up very high right now, because we stood up to a lot of shit as a community. We really have. A lot of venom, a lot of nasty people, a lot of threats. And today, you saw that we've been right. We've been right. So keep your head up. And we'll see you tomorrow night, Canton Select Board. And if you're in the area in Canton, Stoughton, go to that Canton Select Board. Support the women of Canton. They need your backup. Even if you don't speak, just go there and be that strong, silent supporter supporting the women of Canton who show up. And they get threatened a lot. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you soon. Mike Crawford checking out. Thank you, Attorney Mark Bederow. Thank you, Mazza Media. And again, thank our three awesome moderators. Thank you so much. We'll see you at the Canton Select Board meeting Tuesday night.